Your job as a custodian.
The movie opens by showing John Kramer, or Jigsaw, undergoing therapy for the advanced brain cancer he suffered. The doctor said the cancer cells in John's brain were getting malignant, and he was estimated to have only a few months to live. After leaving the doctor's room, John saw a hospital janitor intending to steal a patient's belongings. Immediately, it came to mind a deadly game suitable for punishing a thief. The officer had to turn a button that would automatically make his fingers broken one by one. But within 1 minute, the officer also failed to complete the game until both eyeballs were sucked in by a vacuum tube. Fortunately, all of that did not happen because after seeing John the janitor, immediately undid his intentions. John then attended a meeting for cancer fighters in the forum. Cancer fighters will share their stories and provide motivation to keep the spirit of life there. John was acquainted with a pancreatic cancer patient named Henry Kessler. A few days later, John wrote a will before death picked him up. Not long after, he accidentally met again with Henry, who looked much healthier. Henry said he had just undergone surgery and managed to get rid of cancer thanks to cancer treatment. Thanks to the experimental treatment carried out by Dr. Finn Peterson, because he was interested in Henry's story. John immediately contacted Dr. Pedersen through the website given by Henry. The next day, John got a call from Dr. Pedersen's daughter, named Dr. Cecilia Pedersen. Cecilia said that his father had been arrested by the government because his treatment clinic had saved so many cancer fighters. But this also affected the existence of drug companies in his country that were threatened with bankruptcy due to his father's treatment clinic. That's why Cecilia secretly continued her father's hard work, but they were forced to practice in secret and secretly. Now Cecilia has received several patients who plan to undergo treatment. And if John is still interested, he can come to his clinic located in Mexico. After considering everything, John finally left for Mexico. Once there, he was picked up by a taxi driver named Diego, who was ordered by Cecilia to pick up John. Not only that, John was again picked up by several people in a black car for privacy so that no one would know the location of the clinic. Long story short, John finally arrived at the cancer treatment clinic. Once there, John was greeted by a girl named Gabriella, who claimed to be one of the patients who managed to recover from cancer. Then Cecilia also came and invited John to go to her clinic. John was introduced to several medical teams who helped Cecilia. There was Mateo, an anesthesiologist, and a nurse named Valentina. Coincidentally, at the clinic, there was a patient named Parker Sears who had just finished undergoing cancer treatment. Parker gave John a testimonial that he felt much better after undergoing surgery and treatment from Dr. Cecilia. The next day, John got acquainted with a boy named Carlos who lived near the clinic. The two became closer after John managed to repair Carlos' bicycle wheel, which had been damaged. The day of the operation finally arrived. This time, the operation was carried out by a surgeon named Dr. Cortez. In the process, John was made semi-conscious so that he could vaguely see Dr. Cortez cleaning cancer cells in his brain through the monitor. After undergoing surgery, John finally regained consciousness and had to undergo a recovery process. Cecilia met him and told him to take medicine for the next 7 days. And after that, John was officially declared cancer-free. After 7 days, John seemed to find hope for life, feeling a life free from cancer. John bought a bottle of drink that he wanted to gift to Gabriella. But upon arrival at the clinic, John found no one, even the place seemed to have been abandoned. Inside the clinic, John saw a video recording of brain cancer surgery, and he realized that the entire operation he underwent was just a fraud. He apparently did not undergo any surgery. Even Cecilia and her colleagues were not doctors or medical teams. It also made John very angry, whether John was the #1 person who had been deceived by Cecilia. Which is certain that Cecilia reaped huge profits from the patients who were successfully deceived. As a result of this, the psychopathic soul in John finally activated. First, he kidnapped and interrogated Diego, the taxi driver, and the person pretending to be a Cortez doctor. John also forced him to play a sadistic game that required him to remove the explosives attached to his arm. Because the object was very sticky, Diego was forced to cut part of his skin to release the explosives. Fortunately, thanks to his struggle, Diego also managed to escape before the bomb finally exploded. After completing business with Diego, John contacted someone named Amanda to help him take revenge on Cecilia and the others. Didn't take long for Amanda to jump into action and succeeded in kidnapping Valentina, Mateo, Gabriella, and of course Cecilia. Sometime later, Cecilia and the others woke up in the clinic in a state that had been bound. Now, one by one of them will be asked to take part in the Extreme game created by John, aka Jigsaw. Mateo immediately begged John for forgiveness and said that he only received orders from Cecilia. But it was too late. John was already disappointed with them, and now it was time for them to receive punishment. The first person to complete the game was Valentina. In the game, Valentina had to cut her legs with a saw and extract the bone marrow of her legs in order to get the key to free herself. If Valentina failed to complete the game in 3 minutes, then the saw in front of her neck would activate and immediately cut her head to pieces. It was not an easy decision for Valentina to cut off one of her legs, but because time was running out, Valentina was desperate to cut her leg until it was cut off. After that, Valentina quickly channeled the bone marrow of her leg to the required limit. But unfortunately, it did not succeed in meeting the target. The time had expired, so the saw moved to cut Valentina's head until it was cut off. Before the second game started, Cecilia got the idea to take her cell phone, which was in the middle, because she, Mateo, and Gabriella could not reach the cell phone. Cecilia took the initiative to dissect Valentina's stomach and use her intestines as a rope. After succeeding, Cecilia immediately contacted someone and told him that he was being kidnapped. Fortunately, Cecilia's action was known by Amanda, so that Amanda managed to grab the cell phone. Shortly thereafter, Parker was seen coming to the clinic, if you forgot. Parker is also one of Cecilia's patients who was met by John on the day of his arrival. Parker told John that he came there to collect medical money from Cecilia because he had been cheated. John then calmed him down and showed the torture undergone by Cecilia and her colleagues. The next person who had to take part in the sadistic game was Matteo. In the game, Matteo was forced to drill his own skull in order to get the key. Witnessed by Cecilia and Gabriella, Matteo managed to do so, although it was successful. Unfortunately, Matteo's time had run out, so that the heated mask immediately covered his face and killed him. The next player was Gabriella. This time, one of Gabriella's hands and feet was hung, and she was faced with a radiation beam that would continue to destroy her face if Gabriella did not immediately escape. John then told Gabriella to crush the bones of her legs and hands so that she could survive the game. Using a hammer, Gabriella hit her legs and hands many times until finally she was freed with a blistered face due to radiation. John and Amanda were held at gunpoint by Parker, who turned out to have conspired with Cecilia. To be precise, he is Cecilia's lover, who is also involved in the fraud. After freeing Cecilia, now John and Amanda are forced to follow the sadistic game that John has created. At that time, John had told Cecilia to immediately take Amanda to the hospital so that her life could still be saved. But Cecilia instead killed Gabriella by stomping on her neck. Shortly thereafter, Cecilia heard the sound of Carlos, who was playing outside the facility. Because Cecilia knew John had a fairly close relationship with Carlos, so she also brought him into the game and tied together with John. In the game, John and Carlos were placed in a game similar to a seesaw. The person who was in the lower part would be splashed by blood until he had difficulty breathing properly. John, who did not want Carlos to get hurt, continued to maintain a lower position than Carlos. But Carlos also could not bear to see John, so he repeatedly pulled the lever to save John. After that, Parker and Cecilia went to the control room to take the fraudulent money that had previously been seized by John. But when pulling the bag there, the tripwire was suddenly activated, which automatically made the room locked. Poisonous gas continued to fill the room, and there was only one small hole that was enough to save one person. Apparently, John already knew Parker's true identity. Based on the information he got from Diego, from the beginning, Amanda and John had suspected every step of Parker and Cecilia, and they deliberately lured the two into a trap. As a result, Cecilia and Parker fought in the room. Cecilia managed to stab Parker to death and managed to save herself. She also watched John, Amanda, and Carlos survive, while the money from the fraud was all given to Carlos. And this movie was finally finished. In the post-credits scene, it was shown that Henry, the man who initially provided information about cancer treatment, woke up in the bathroom with a trap in his stomach. And at that time, he was being watched by John and Mark Hoffman. So that's the whole storyline of Saw X. Hopefully friends understand the storyline this time. Thank you very much for watching, and see you.